Warren Kane typed quickly on his keyboard, the soft sound of the keys mixing with the quiet buzz of the office's air system. The clock on his screen showed 9:47 p.m. It was another late night at the engineering firm, but the Miller project needed to be finished. He had promised the client to send the designs by morning, and Warren always kept his promises. The office had been quiet for hours. Most of his co-workers had gone home to their families. Outside his window, the Chicago skyline sparkled in the night, showing the careful work of engineering he loved. Each building was a sign of good planning, strong foundations, and attention to detail, values he believed in. Suddenly, a notification popped up on his screen. He had 3 missed calls from Callie. He had texted her earlier about working late, but she always seemed to forget or didn't want to remember. Lately, it felt like she didn't care. Warren rubbed his tired eyes, recalling their talk from that morning. Callie had asked if he was working late again, while she looked at her phone and drank her coffee. She mentioned that the gallery was having a new installation that night. "I thought maybe you'd come." The Miller project deadline moved up. He'd explained, "You know how important this client is to the firm?" She'd given him that look, the one that had been appearing more frequently lately. A mixture of disappointment and something else he couldn't quite identify. "Everything's important to the firm, Warren. When was the last time anything was important to us?" The sound of footsteps in the hallway drew his attention. Mark from accounting appeared in his doorway, coat draped over his arm, his usually cheerful face bearing an uncomfortable expression. "Warren, you're still here?" "Miller project," Warren replied, gesturing at his screen. "Those support beam calculations won't check themselves." "You heading out?" Mark shifted his weight from one foot to another, clearly wrestling with something. "Yeah, just got back from O'Malley's. Saw your wife there." Warren stopped typing. "Callie?" She had said she was working late at the gallery. "Oh." Mark looked uncomfortable, playing with the buttons on his coat. "She was with a guy who looked like a contractor. They seem to be getting along well. I usually wouldn't say anything, but what?" Warren kept his voice calm, even though his heart was racing. Mark sighed, walked into the office, and shut the door. They were in a booth. He had his hand on her leg. She was laughing at everything he said, the kind of laughing that he trailed off, then added quietly, "I'm sorry, Warren. I thought you should know." The word friendly hung in the air like smoke. Warren's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice steady. "How long were they there?" "At least an hour. They were still there when I left." Mark ran a hand through his hair. "Listen, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's work-related. Thanks for letting me know, Mark." Warren's tone made it clear the conversation was over. After Mark left, Warren sat motionless, staring at his computer screen without seeing it. The notification showing Callie's missed calls seemed to mock him now. He opened his phone, thumbing through recent texts. "Working late at the gallery again. Don't wait up. Another installation. I probably won't be home for dinner. I'm meeting with a potential buyer, so it might take a while." Each message felt different now, carrying more meaning than before. Warren opened their shared calendar and looked back over the past few months. A pattern appeared that looked like a sign of betrayal. There were gallery events that weren't listed on the gallery's public calendar, late meetings that matched his own late nights at work, and weekend workshops he had never heard of. His phone buzzed with a new message from Callie, who was still at the gallery. "There's a lot to do with the new installation. I miss you." Warren gripped his phone tightly until his knuckles turned white. The lie felt terrible in his stomach. He thought about the past few months and the small changes he had ignored. The new clothes, the expensive perfume, her sudden interest in fitness classes, and how she always turned her phone face down when he walked into the room. He saved his work and turned off his computer. The Miller project would have to wait. For the first time in his career, Warren Kane was going to miss a deadline. The drive home felt longer than usual, with his mind replaying every late night, every missed dinner, and every excuse from the past few months. Chicago traffic had eased up, but each red light felt like forever, giving him more time to think about the signs he had missed. "You've changed," she told him last week. "You used to be more spontaneous and passionate." "I'm the same person I've always been," he replied, feeling confused by her words. "I'm working hard to give us the life we wanted. Maybe this isn't the life I want anymore," she said. When he pulled into their driveway, Callie's car wasn't there. He checked his watch. 10:30 p.m. The gallery closed at 6. Inside their modern home, which had clean lines and simple decor, just like Callie wanted, Warren poured himself a glass of whiskey and sat in the dark. He didn't turn on the lights. He didn't need to. Instead, he started to notice things he had overlooked. A new perfume bottle on her vanity, a gym membership receipt, even though she had always disliked exercising, and a mysterious text that made her smile and turn her phone away. The house felt different now. It felt tainted by doubt, with every corner holding a memory that now seemed suspicious. The kitchen where they'd hosted dinner parties. Callie, always the perfect hostess. But had she been performing even then? The living room sofa where they'd planned their future. But had she already been planning a different one? He pulled out his phone again, opening their banking app. The transactions told their own story. Lunch charges at places she'd never mentioned. Boutique purchases on days she'd claimed to be working. A hotel charge that had been explained away as a gallery event. At midnight, headlights swept across the living room walls. A car door slammed. Keys jingled in the lock. Callie's silhouette appeared in the doorway, backlit by the porch light. Warren? She jumped when she saw him sitting there. God, you scared me. Why are you sitting in the dark? How was the gallery? His voice was quiet, controlled. Callie turned on the lights, showing off her outfit. A black dress he had never seen before, definitely not suitable for the gallery. Her makeup looked perfect, and her hair was styled like she used to do for their date nights. Oh, busy night, new installation. Funny Mark saw you at O'Malley's. The silence that followed felt heavy. Callie's hand froze on the light switch, and her shoulders tensed. When she turned to face him, her expression had changed. The surprised wife was gone, replaced by something colder and harder. Were you having me followed? The accusation in her voice made him angry, but Warren kept calm. Answer the question, Callie. Who were you with? What does it matter? She threw her purse onto the counter with more force than needed. You're never here anyway. You're always at the office and always busy with your projects. Do you know how lonely that gets? Warren stood up slowly, his glass of whiskey forgotten. Don't turn this around on me. Who is he? His name is Tyson. The words came out like a challenge, her chin lifting defiantly. And he makes me feel alive. The admission hung between them like a physical thing. Warren's hands clenched at his sides, his wedding ring suddenly feeling like it was burning his finger. How long? Does it matter? How long? Callie crossed her arms, a gesture that was both defensive and defiant. 3 months. And you know what? I don't regret it. Tyson sees me, Warren. He understands me in ways you never could. If you really loved me, you'd understand why I needed this. Warren stared at her, really seeing her for the first time in their marriage. The woman before him wasn't the person he'd fallen in love with. Or maybe she had always been this way, and he had been too blind to notice. If I loved you, his voice was dangerously quiet. I gave you everything. This house, the gallery job, everything you ever wanted. And this is how you repay my loyalty. Oh, please. Callie rolled her eyes and paced the room like a trapped animal. Things. You gave me things. What about emotions? What about passion? When was the last time you kissed me spontaneously? When was the last time you put me before your precious work? When was the last time you were honest with me? While I was working to give us a good life, you were with some contractor. The slap echoed through the room. Warren caught her wrist before she could pull it back, his grip firm, but not bruising. Their eyes met hers, widening with the first hint of fear, his cold with fury. Don't, he warned, releasing her wrist. Don't you dare act offended. You lost that right the moment you decided to cheat. He turned away from her, walking purposefully toward their bedroom. Callie followed, her heels clicking on the hardwood floors. What are you doing? Warren yanked open their closet, pulling out a suitcase. If Tyson's so amazing, he said, throwing the suitcase onto the bed, why don't you go live with him? Warren, stop. You're being ridiculous. Her voice had lost its edge. Taking on a pleading note, we could talk about this. We can work it out. Couples go through this all the time. No. The word cut through her excuses like a blade. Other couples might accept this. I won't. He ignored her and started taking her clothes off the hangers, tossing them into the suitcase. Designer dresses, silk blouses, the expensive things he had bought her over the years, went in without any care. Warren, please. You're overreacting. It was just a mistake. A 3-month mistake? He moved to her dresser and emptied the drawers. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. A mistake is burning dinner. But sleeping with another man for 3 months while lying to me? That's a choice. Callie grabbed his arm, trying to stop him from packing. People make bad choices, Warren. They learn from them. What about counseling? We could try. There's nothing to try. He shook off her grip and zipped the suitcase shut with finality. You made your choice. Now you can live with it. You're not even willing to fight for us? Her voice cracked. After 7 years of marriage? Warren turned to face her, his expression carved from stone. Fight for what? Callie. The lies? The betrayal? Tell me exactly what part of this marriage is worth saving. I love you, she whispered, tears starting to fall. Doesn't that count for anything? Love, he laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. Is that what you call it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks a lot like convenience. You love the life I gave you. You love the security. But me? No, Callie. You don't love me. You never did. Callie's face crumpled, and her mascara ran down her cheeks. Once, her tears might have affected him. Now they just felt like another form of manipulation. Where am I supposed to go? I hear Tyson's amazing, Warren replied with sarcasm. I'm sure he'll take you in. After all, he understands you so well. He carried the suitcase to the front door and set it on the porch. When he turned back, Callie was standing in the foyer, her perfect appearance now a mess. You can't do this to me, she whispered. I'm not doing anything to you. You did this to yourself. Warren held the door open. You have an hour to grab anything else you need. After that, I'm changing the locks. Our friends will never understand this. She made one last desperate attempt. They'll think you're cruel for throwing me out in the middle of the night. What will people say? Warren's laugh was without humor. You want to bet on that? Go ahead. Tell them your version. Tell them how mean workaholic Warren forced you to seek comfort in another man's bed. See how that plays out. I'll tell them you abandoned me emotionally. She threatened, a flash of her earlier defiance returning. That you chose your work over me. That I what? Provided for you? Supported your dreams? Trusted you? Warren's voice remained steady, but his eyes blazed. Go ahead, Callie, spin whatever story you want. The truth has a way of coming out. He watched as the reality of her situation finally hit her. Her shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of her. Without another word, she gathered her purse and a few personal items, then walked past him onto the porch. Warren! She turned back one last time, her hand on the porch railing. I'm sorry. No, he said quietly. You're only sorry you got caught. The door closed with a final click, and Warren locked it. He watched Callie struggle to fit her suitcase in her car's trunk. As her taillights disappeared down the street, he pulled out his phone. First, he called a 24-hour locksmith. Then he typed a group text to their friends. Callie cheated. She's gone. If she contacts you with stories, know that she chose this. All of it. After sending it, he turned off his phone, not wanting to see the replies. In the sudden silence of the house, Warren poured another glass of whiskey and sat down to plan his next moves. He had trusted Callie with everything. His heart, his home, his reputation. She had betrayed that trust, and now she would learn what that meant. Tomorrow, he would start taking apart the life he had built with her. Tonight, he would sit with his anger and let it turn into determination. Callie thought she knew him, thought she could manipulate him with tears and accusations. She was about to discover just how wrong she was. Warren Kane had built his career on precision, discipline, and an unshakable commitment to his principles. He'd approached his marriage the same way, giving it everything he had. Now that Callie had broken that contract, he would approach their separation with the same methodical attention to detail. No second chances, no forgiveness, just cold, calculated justice. The whiskey burned going down, but Warren welcomed the sensation. It was better than the hollow feeling in his chest, the space where trust used to live. He'd filled that space with anger now, and anger would serve him better than love ever had. His phone buzzed again on the table, Callie calling for the 4th time tonight. Warren watched it ring until the screen went dark. 7 years of marriage, ended by 3 months of lies. He should have seen it coming, should have noticed the signs, but he'd been too busy building their future to notice her destroying their present. The locksmith arrived 30 minutes later, efficient and professional, asking no questions as he changed every lock in the house. Warren paid him extra for the late-night service, then stood in his doorway, new keys in hand, feeling like a stranger in his own home. Tomorrow would bring chaos, friends calling, rumors spreading, lives unraveled. But Warren was ready for it. He'd faced complex problems his entire career, solving them with logic and precision. This would be no different. Callie had made her choice, and now he would make his. No compromise, no weakness, no forgiveness. The night stretched ahead of him, dark and uncertain. But Warren Kane didn't fear uncertainty. He would rebuild, stronger than before, without the lies that his marriage had become. And he would make sure Callie understood what she had thrown away. Warren sat in his office, phone pressed to his ear, listening to an old colleague from the construction industry. After a week of careful calls, things were starting to come together. "Tom, what can you tell me about a contractor named Tyson? Operates in the Chicago area." "Tyson Parker?" Tom's voice crackled through the speaker. "Yeah, I know him. He's a bit of a cowboy. Takes on more jobs than he can handle and cuts corners to meet deadlines." "Why?" Warren's free hand tightened on his desk. "I'm hearing some concerning things about his work. Any specifics you can share? Where do I start?" Tom chuckled darkly. "Last year, he used substandard concrete on a foundation pour. Had to tear it all out and redo it. Cost him a fortune, but somehow he keeps landing contracts." "How?" "Charmed mostly. Guy could sell ice to Eskimos. That, and he underbids everyone else. Can't figure out how he makes the numbers work." Warren opened his laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. "Send me whatever you have on him. Consider it a professional courtesy." "Sure thing." "But Warren," Tom paused, "this wouldn't have anything to do with those rumors about Callie, would it?" "Just doing my due diligence, Tom. You know how I feel about shoddy workmanship." After hanging up, Warren dove into research. Bank records, business filings. The contractor reviews everything publicly, but it's buried deep enough that most people wouldn't bother to look. The pattern became clear. Tyson Parker was in deep debt, juggling loans to keep his business running. A knock at his office door interrupted his research. Lila Monroe stood there, concern on her face. "I thought I might find you buried in work," she said, stepping inside. "Have you eaten today?" Warren glanced at his watch and was surprised to see it was past 2 p.m. "I'd been busy ruining Tyson Parker's reputation." Lila sat across from him and placed a paper bag on his desk. "I brought sandwiches. And before you argue, you need to eat." "I don't need." "Warren Kane, I've known you since we were kids. Don't make me force-feed you." He couldn't help but smile a little. Lila had always been direct, caring, and hard to ignore. She was his first call after Callie left, showing up at his door with coffee and clear-headed advice. "How did you know about Parker?" "Please." Lila unwrapped a sandwich and pushed it toward him. "You think I haven't been keeping tabs? You get that same look you had in college before you destroyed someone in debate club." Warren took a bite of the sandwich, realizing he was actually hungry. "He's working on the Riverside Development Project, a high-profile commercial build, and he's been cutting corners for years. Using cheap materials, underpaying workers, and barely meeting code." Warren's eyes gleamed. "Those are the kinds of things respectable developers might want to know about." "Warren," Lila leaned forward. "Are you sure about this? Revenge won't make you feel better. This isn't about revenge." He met her gaze steadily. "This is about consequences." He made his choice when he decided to pursue a married woman. Now he'll face the results. Just be careful. Don't let this consume you. "I'm always careful." The next few days passed in a blur of strategic moves. Warren reached out to contacts throughout the industry, sharing concerns about Tyson's business practices. He sent anonymous tips to building inspectors about potential code violations. Each move was calculated, legal, and devastating. The effects showed quickly. The Riverside developers pulled Tyson's contract. Other clients began canceling projects. His reputation, built on charm and false promises, crumbled under scrutiny. One evening, Warren walked into O'Malley's, the bar where Callie and Tyson had shown off their affair. He needed a drink and wanted to face this place on his own terms. He was nursing his second whiskey when a familiar voice broke through the noise. Well, if it isn't the workaholic himself. Warren turned slowly on his bar stool to see Tyson Parker standing there, clearly drunk and looking worn out. "Parker," Warren said coldly. "Rough week, you smug bastards?" Tyson stepped closer, swaying a little. "You think I don't know what you've been doing? Making calls, spreading rumors?" Warren took another sip of whiskey. "I simply shared some concerns about your business practices. The truth hurts, doesn't it?" "Truth?" Tyson laughed bitterly. "The truth is your wife came to me. She begged me to show her what a real man could do. And let me tell you, she was very appreciative." The bar went quiet as other patrons sensed the tension. Warren set his glass down carefully. "A real man?" He stood slowly. "A real man doesn't prey on married women. A real man doesn't cut corners and endanger lives with shoddy construction. You're nothing but a fraud, Parker. In every aspect of your life. At least I know how to satisfy a woman." Tyson shoved Warren's shoulder. "No wonder Callie left you." Warren's fist connected with Tyson's jaw before he could finish the sentence. The contractor stumbled back, then charged forward with a wild swing. Warren ducked, years of boxing training taking over. His next punch caught Tyson in the stomach, doubling him over. "Stay down," Warren warned. But Tyson lurched up, throwing another clumsy punch. Warren blocked it and delivered 3 rapid strikes: face, ribs, solar plexus. Tyson crashed into a table and slid to the floor, gasping. Warren straightened his jacket, looking down at the pathetic figure before him. "The difference between us, Parker, isn't who can throw a better punch. It's character. You have none." He turned to the bartender. "Sorry about the mess. Put any damages on my tab." Then he looked at Tyson. "Next time you want to brag about sleeping with someone's wife, remember this moment. Remember how it feels to lose everything you've built." Warren walked out of O'Malley's with his head held high, leaving Tyson groaning on the floor. His knuckles hurt, but the pain felt clear. He hadn't lost control. He had just given Tyson the beating he had been asking for. His phone buzzed. It was Callie's number. She had been calling and texting constantly since news of Tyson's downfall spread. He let it go to voicemail, just like all the others. The next morning, his office door burst open. Callie stood there, clutching her purse like a shield. "You destroyed him," she accused. "Are you happy now?" Warren didn't look up from his computer. "Did you need something?" Tyson lost everything: his business, his reputation, actions of consequences. Now Warren did look up, his expression hard. He chose to pursue a married woman. "You chose to cheat. These are the results. I'm living in my car." Callie's voice cracked. "None of our friends will talk to me. The gallery put me on leave. Please, Warren, I made a mistake. I want to come home." "Home?" Warren stood, walking around his desk. "You don't have a home with me anymore. You threw that away for a few months of excitement with a fraud. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever you want. Please." She reached for his hand. "I love you." Warren pulled away as if her touch burned. "No, you don't. You love security. You love the lifestyle. But you never loved me." "That's not true." Tears fell freely now. "I was confused and lonely. Tyson was a mistake. A 3-month mistake? Multiple hotel rooms? Countless lies." Warren's voice stayed calm. "You were confused, Callie. You were selfish. And now you're only sorry because your plan backfired. What do you want me to say?" She collapsed into a chair, sobbing. "That I'm sorry? That I regret everything? I do. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I want you to leave." Warren opened his office door. "I want you to live with the choices you made, and I want you to understand that there will never be forgiveness. Not from me. Warren, please. Security will escort you out if necessary." Callie stared at him for a long moment, searching for any sign of softening. Finding none, she gathered her purse with trembling hands and walked to the door. "You'll regret this," she whispered. "Someday, you'll wish you'd given us another chance." Warren's laugh was cold. "The only thing I regret is not seeing you for what you were sooner. Goodbye, Callie." After she left, Warren called his lawyer. "She'll try something desperate next. Be ready." He was right. A week later, Callie filed for spousal support, saying she had been emotionally abandoned and was financially dependent. Warren's lawyer came prepared with bank records showing her shopping sprees, hotel receipts, and text messages she hadn't deleted. The judge dismissed her claim in less than an hour. Warren sat expressionless as Callie left the courtroom in tears. He felt nothing watching her go. She had chosen her path. Now she could walk it alone. That evening, Lila brought dinner to his house and set up takeout containers on his kitchen island. "I heard about court," she said, handing him a beer. "You okay?" "I'm fine." Warren took a long drink. "It's finally over." "Is it?" Lila studied him closely. "Or are you just getting started on your war path?" Tyson Parker destroyed himself. "I'll just help people see who he really was." Warren picked at his food. And Callie, she made her choice. When we were kids, you used to say everything was either right or wrong. No gray areas. Some things are that simple. Lila touched his arm gently. "Life usually isn't. But you've always been the most principled person I know. Sometimes it drives me crazy, but it's also why I trust you completely." Warren looked at his oldest friend, seeing the concern in her eyes. "I'm not going to break Lila. I'm going to rebuild better than before." "I know you will." She smiled. "And I'll be here to make sure you actually eat while doing it." For the first time in weeks, Warren felt something close to peace. Not happiness, that would take time, but sitting here with Lila, who had always seen him clearly and accepted him anyway. He could imagine a future beyond betrayal. His phone buzzed with another text from Callie. He deleted it without reading it, and then turned the phone off completely. "Thanks," he said to Lila, "for everything." She understood what he meant. She always did. The hammer struck with precision, each blow echoing through the empty house. Warren stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow as he looked at the destroyed kitchen counter. The granite that Callie had insisted on, the one she had charged to his credit card without asking, was in pieces at his feet. "Making progress?" Lila's voice came from the doorway. She stood there with 2 cups of coffee, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Warren turned, and a slight smile crossed his usually serious face. "Slowly but surely. Though I'm starting to think I should have hired professionals." "Not a chance," Lila said as she walked across the room, carefully stepping over the debris to hand him a coffee. The morning light came through the windows, making dust particles dance in the air. Warren took a sip of the coffee. Black, no sugar, just how he liked it. Unlike Callie, Lila never tried to change his preferences. "I've been thinking about putting in a kitchen island," Warren said, gesturing to the space. "Something functional, not just for show. That would work well here." Lila ran her hand along the wall. "What about the color scheme?" "I'm thinking darker tones. Industrial meets modern." Warren sat down his coffee. "No more of that." He waved his hand dismissively. "What did she call it?" "Coastal grandmother chic," Lila supplied with a smirk. Warren actually laughed, a sound that had become rare in recent months, but was slowly returning. "That's the one." His phone buzzed in his pocket. Another text from Callie. He didn't even bother checking it anymore, then went straight to a separate folder he never opened. Lila noticed him tense up a bit. "She's still at it?" Like clockwork, Warren picked up his sledgehammer again. "But she might as well be texting a brick wall." "Speaking of walls," Lila said, tapping the one beside her, "weren't you thinking about opening this up?" Warren nodded, relieved for the change of subject. "Load-bearing, unfortunately. But I'm thinking of adding some industrial shelving here instead." They spent the next hour discussing renovation plans, with Lila offering practical suggestions that matched his vision instead of trying to change it. It felt natural and collaborative. Everything his marriage to Callie hadn't been. Later that afternoon, Warren sat in his home office, reviewing project proposals for work. His reputation at the firm had only gotten stronger in recent months. His colleagues had noticed his increased focus and the way he tackled challenges with new energy. Then his office phone rang. It was Mark, his direct supervisor. "Warren, got a minute?" The Gibson project just landed the biggest contract of the quarter. Teams stretched thin, and frankly, you're the only one I trust to handle it. Warren felt a surge of professional pride. "Send me the details. I'll start reviewing tonight." "You sure? It's a heavy workload, even for you." "I work better when I'm busy," Warren replied, already pulling up his calendar. "And I've got some ideas about the structural integrity issues they mentioned in the preliminary report." "This is why you're my go-to guy, Warren." Files are on their way. After hanging up, Warren leaned back in his chair, feeling a sense of satisfaction. Where Callie had seen a workaholic, he saw dedication. Where she complained about his overly serious nature, his colleagues saw reliability and excellence. The doorbell rang, interrupting his thoughts. Warren checked his security camera feed, a habit he developed since Callie's attempts to accidentally run into him had started. It was just his contractor, Jim, arriving for their scheduled meeting about the electrical work. As they walked through the house, discussing upgrades and improvements, Jim whistled at the demolition progress. "You've been busy, Mr. Kane. Call me Warren," he said, pointing out where he wanted the new outlets installed. "And yes, it's therapeutic. Heard about what happened with your wife?" Jim said cautiously. "Small town, you know how it is." Warren's jaw tightened a little. "Ex-wife," he corrected firmly. "Right, sorry." Jim quickly changed the subject, pulling out his tablet to show some fixture options. That evening, after Jim left, Warren stood in his half-demolished kitchen, feeling a strange sense of peace in the chaos. His phone buzzed again, and this time it was Lila. "Just checking if you remembered to eat dinner," her text read. "I know how you get when you're in project mode." Warren looked at his watch, realizing he had completely lost track of time. He typed back, guilty as charged, about to order something. "I've got leftover lasagna. I could drop it by if you want something that didn't come from a delivery app." Warren considered the offer. With Callie, there had always been strings attached to such gestures. But Lila was different. She'd proven that time and again over the years. 20 minutes later, they sat at his makeshift dining setup, a folding table and chairs in what would eventually be his new dining room. So Lila said between bites, "Tell me about this Gibson project everyone at the firm is talking about." Warren found himself explaining the technical challenges with genuine enthusiasm, something he'd learned not to do with Callie, who would always cut him off with an eye roll and a boring. But Lila listened, asked intelligent questions, and even offered insights from her own experience managing complex projects in her counseling practice. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "it's good to see you like this again." "Like what?" "Passionate. Focused. The Warren I remember from before." She trailed off, not needing to complete the sentence. Warren set down his fork, considering her words. "I lost myself for a while there, didn't I?" "We all do sometimes." Lila shrugged. "The important thing is finding your way back." Their eyes met briefly across the table, and Warren felt something shift in the air between them. But neither of them pushed it. They had time, and rushing things wasn't their style. After Lila left, Warren stood in his driveway, watching her taillights disappear around the corner. The night air was cool and fresh, with the scent of autumn approaching. Inside, his house was a work in progress, just like he was, but for the first time in months, he felt truly hopeful about what he was building. On Tuesday morning, a summons arrived, tucked between his utility bill and a hardware store flyer. Warren read it twice, feeling his expression harden with each line. Callie was suing for spousal support, claiming he had abandoned her during a crisis and left her broke and homeless. He called his lawyer right away. "Don't worry," Sarah Matthews said, her voice steady and professional. "This is a desperate move, and she doesn't have a strong case. I've already started gathering the documentation. She's got nerve, I'll give her that," Warren said coldly. "She's probably hoping you'll settle just to avoid the hassle." Warren laughed without humor. "She should know me better than that." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. Warren collected bank statements, text messages, and emails, a paper trail of Callie's dishonesty and financial irresponsibility. His friend Marcus from IT even recovered deleted emails that showed her planning meetings with Tyson during work hours at the gallery. The morning of the hearing arrived clear and crisp. Warren dressed carefully, choosing his best charcoal suit and a deep blue tie that Lila once said brought out his eyes. He wanted to look like the successful professional he was as he walked into the courthouse. For the first time in weeks, he spotted Callie. She was wearing what he recognized as her sympathy outfit, a modest dress that made her look younger and more vulnerable than she was. Their eyes met briefly across the parking lot, but when she started to walk toward him, Sarah stepped between them. "Remember," his lawyer said quietly, "no direct contact." Inside, they took their places in the small courtroom. Warren sat straight back and composed, while Callie kept shooting him, pleading looks from across the aisle. Her lawyer, a young man Warren didn't recognize, shuffled through papers nervously. Judge Martinez entered, and the proceedings began. Callie's lawyer presented first, painting a picture of a devoted wife abandoned by her workaholic husband, now struggling to survive. My client simply seeks fair compensation for the years she spent supporting Mr. Kane's career, the lawyer argued. During their marriage, she put her own ambitions aside. Objection, Your Honor, Sarah interrupted smoothly. Opposing counsel is presenting facts that aren't in evidence. Mrs. Kane held a full-time job throughout the marriage. Sustained, Judge Martinez said. Please continue with verifiable facts, counselor. Callie's lawyer stumbled, clearly thrown off his game. Yes, Your Honor. We have documentation showing Mrs. Kane's current financial hardship, which she brought upon herself. Sarah responded when it was her turn. She walked up to the judge with a thick folder. Your Honor, I have evidence of Mrs. Kane's systematic financial betrayal of my client, including unauthorized credit card charges and hidden bank accounts. Warren watched as Sarah carefully laid out the evidence. She showed bank statements from Callie's secret account where she had been taking money. There were credit card bills for expensive dinners with Tyson while Warren worked late, and hotel receipts charged to Warren's card on days Callie claimed to be working late at the gallery. Furthermore, Sarah continued, we have documentation of Mrs. Kane's affair with Mr. Tyson Brooks, including text messages where she clearly says she plans to, and I quote, take Warren for everything he's worth once she secured a relationship with Mr. Brooks. Warren kept his eyes straight ahead, but he could feel Callie's panic from across the room. Her lawyer was whispering to her frantically, likely realizing just how unprepared they were. Judge Martinez reviewed the evidence carefully, her expression growing more serious with each page. Finally, she looked up and fixed Callie with a disapproving stare. Mrs. Kane, she said sharply, this court has a very low tolerance for people who try to manipulate the system for personal gain. The evidence clearly shows that you not only betrayed the trust in your marriage, but also tried to defraud your husband financially. Callie stood up, her voice shaking. Your Honor, if I could explain. The time for explanations was before you committed adultery and financial manipulation. Judge Martinez interrupted. This claim for spousal support is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering you to repay all unauthorized charges to Mr. Kane's accounts. Totaling, she consulted the documents. $23,847. 52. Warren finally allowed himself to look at Callie. She had collapsed back in her chair, all color drained from her face. Her carefully constructed victim narrative had crumbled, leaving her with nothing but the consequences of her own actions. Outside the courthouse, Callie made one last attempt to approach him. I know I made mistakes, but I'm desperate. I'm living in my car. Warren turned, fixing her with a look that stopped her in her tracks. You made your choices, Callie. Multiple times. You chose to cheat. You chose to steal. You chose to lie. And now you're choosing to play the victim instead of taking responsibility. I said I was sorry. She cried, tears starting to fall. What more do you want from me? Nothing, Warren replied simply. I want absolutely nothing from you. That's the point you keep missing. You threw away everything we had for a cheap thrill with a con man, and now you're facing the consequences. Your tears don't move me anymore. You're so cold, she whispered. You used to love me. I loved who I thought you were, Warren corrected her. A loyal, honest partner. But that person never existed. Did she? She was just another one of your manipulations. With a briefcase in hand, the judge said, Mrs. Kane, I suggest you step away. The order includes no contact. Callie looked between them, mascara running down her cheeks. For a moment, Warren saw her clearly, not as his wife, not as the woman he'd loved, but as she truly was a selfish, manipulative person who had never valued what they had. Goodbye, Callie, he said firmly, turning away. Her sobs followed him across the parking lot, but they didn't make him look back. He had a new life to build, and she wasn't part of it. The kitchen renovation was finally complete. Warren stood in the center of the space, admiring how the morning light played across the dark granite countertops and industrial-style fixtures. The island he'd envisioned had turned out exactly as he'd planned, functional yet elegant. with clean lines and plenty of workspace. His phone chimed with a text from Lila. Ready for the grand reveal? Warren smiled, typing back, "Come see for yourself." While he waited, he brewed coffee in his new premium machine, one of several upgrades he'd treated himself to. The rich aroma filled the kitchen, mixing with the fresh paint smell that still lingered. The doorbell rang, and Warren felt a familiar warmth spread through his chest. He opened the door to find Lila standing there, holding a bottle of champagne, and wearing that smile that always seemed to reach her eyes. "Really?" he asked, eyeing the champagne. "Hey, finishing a renovation is worth celebrating," she said, stepping inside. She stopped short when she saw the kitchen, her eyes widening. "Warren, this is incredible." He watched as she walked through the space, running her hand along the countertops, checking the fixtures, and opening cabinets to see the organization system he had installed. "You really thought of everything," she said, turning back to him. "It's perfectly you." "Is that a compliment?" he asked, the corner of his mouth lifting. "For me?" "Always." She handed him the champagne. "Now, where are your glasses? Or did you organize those into oblivion too?" Warren reached into a cabinet and pulled out 2 new champagne flutes, part of the fresh start he was making for himself. As he poured the champagne, Lila leaned against the island, watching him with a thoughtful look. "You seem different today," she observed. "Do I?" "Lighter, somehow. Did something happen?" Warren set down the bottle and considered her words. "The court order came through yesterday. Callie's request for an appeal was denied. It's really over." Lila straightened, her expression serious. "How do you feel about that?" "Honestly." Warren handed her a glass. "Free. Like I can finally close that chapter completely." They clinked glasses softly. The champagne bubbles caught the morning light, creating tiny prisms on the counter. "You know," Lila said after a moment, "I've been thinking about what you said last week. About starting fresh." Warren felt his heart rate pick up slightly. "Oh yeah?" She set down her glass, meeting his eyes directly. "We've known each other forever, Warren. You're my best friend. And lately, things have felt different." He finished for her. "They have." She took a deep breath. "But I need you to be sure, really sure, because I can't be a rebound." Warren stepped closer to her. "Lila, you've never been that. You're the one who showed me what real support and care look like. Are you sure you're ready?" Instead of answering right away, Warren reached out and took her hand. It felt natural, like everything with Lila always had. "I'm not the same man who married Callie," he said quietly. "That guy was willing to change who he was for someone else's approval. But you've never asked me to be anything other than who I am." Lila squeezed his hand. "Because who you are is pretty amazing, Warren Kane. Even if you were a bit too organized." He laughed and pulled her closer. "Says the woman who color codes her client files. That's different. That's professional organization." Their laughter faded into a comfortable silence. Warren looked around his kitchen, his new kitchen in his fresh home, and felt very happy. "Want to stay for breakfast?" he asked. Lila smiled warmly. "I thought you'd never ask." As Warren prepared their meal with Lila's help, he realized something important. This was no longer just about getting through Callie's betrayal. Second story. Later that day, while he was on his way to work, I called him and urged him to block her, explaining how it made me feel. He accused me of talking to my ex-partner, but the difference was that I had told my ex I was in a relationship and allowed my partner to access my phone. After that call, I felt like he would leave me soon. In a desperate attempt to make him stay, I tried to harm myself. Next thing I knew, an ambulance was in my room checking on me to make sure I was okay. Once I got the all clear, I called my partner again to tell him what had happened. He then blocked his ex on all platforms, and they didn't communicate again until today, October 26th. My partner is currently with his mother and little brother at his sister's apartment in the same town as his ex. He went for a walk around the town, and I called him just as he was returning. He mentioned that his mother and little brother were joking about him meeting a girl, and his mother even asked if he was going to cheat on his girlfriend. He said no, but then mentioned that he had a cramp in his right arm, which he never gets unless he has met a girl. I talked about this with my best friend, and she suggested that I come here to explain everything that has been happening, hoping to get some advice on the situation.